This time on Custom Works, things are getting shiny. Let's get to the workshop. Right, and so, meat wagon, need some wheels, need some cool wheels. You know, we've got this weird sort of back spacing, they're like a lorry wheel, and they're pretty ugly. So, regular readers may remember these wheel trims I bought from a Auto Jumble a while back. They were really cheap. I thought they looked pretty cool. Now, they're obviously too big for this wheel. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut around this seam, and then I'm going to cap that with a piece of trim so that edge isn't sharp against the wall of the tyre. And we're going to mount these to the wheels. I've already had this under the arch, and amazingly, look, this sort of arch here, where the wheel turns, just misses everything on that arch. Even though the arch comes to about sort of this point on the wheel, you know, it's super low, but this misses everything. Yeah, unbelievably, it works. Now, when I've cut round there, that does make still what you'll see of the wheel a little bit bigger than the tyre, so it'll look like it's got a lower profile tyre. But what I'll do is set this off of the tyre enough that it's never going to rub. And if we ever do have a flat, well, some of this is just going to be sacrificial. But small price to pay for having such cool chrome wheels. The tyre would have to go totally flat before it, you know, knackered it. But I'm not going to put anything tough enough on here that the car could actually ride on it. The car, if, you know, there was a catastrophic failure in the tyre, the car would still just sit on the wheel rim. It would dent this bit out of the way, and that'd be it, because this is pretty thin. So how are we going to fix it on here? Well, first off, I will cut this. I'll cut this flange from around here, and then looking at the wheel, first off, I've measured this, and then we need a steel hoop to fit on here, so we've got something to fit that to. So once I've measured the wheels, what I've done, I've gone into AutoCAD, or as this is DraftSight, which is just free to download, and I drew two circles, one that fits a wheel and then a flange and out to there, and then I sent this to be laser cut, and once it's laser cut, it looked like this. In full mount, perfect size, and that'll go on there. Now, I could have cut this with the plasma cutter, but this way it is perfect. Don't forget, this wheel is going to spin, and I'll spot weld this on here, or, you know, I'll put some, you know, sort of tack it. But the thing is, when the wheel's spinning, this will always spin perfectly. You know, obviously I'm going to do things now that are going to ruin this and probably put the wheel out of balance. I'll have to have the wheels balanced again. But just to have it drawn in AutoCAD and then laser cut just makes it just a hell of a lot more accurate. And also, on the thing of AutoCAD, download DraftSight and mess about with it for a weekend. At the end of the weekend, you will be able to draw simple shapes. It is the ultimate tool. Angle grinder, plasma cutter, all of that pales in significance at the side of the laser cutter. And nowadays, there's a lot of companies got laser cutters, or even water cutters, or just a CNC milling machine. But it can really bring to someone who works, you know, just in the shed at the bottom of the garden, someone like aerospace, like accuracy and engineer, you know, sort of engineering-y sort of thing. I would absolutely recommend it for the, you know, for the weekend of head scratching you'll have. You'll have such a great skill moving forward to make loads more cool stuff on ridiculous cars. But anyway, let's get this fitted to this rim. Right, so let's get this hoop fixed on this wheel. And first off on this wheel, this has got original paint. I think it's been painted and then someone's painted over it with a brush in this sort of beige. Lovely. So I'm going to clean it off, wire wheel, angle grinder. It's going to make light work of this. Let's do it. Right, and so all that paint's off. We've got the disc there. Of course, the disc is so nicely cut because it was cut on the laser cutter. It just fits into this this steel pressing so nicely. And what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to put some tacks around here. I'm going to tack it now, but I'll only probably put 4 sort of like 20mm long stitch welds on it when it's finished. But yeah, I'll tack it for now, and then we can move on to seeing what sort of spacing this needs to clear that tyre. Okay, so I've tacked that on. Only small tacks, just in case, you know, anything goes wrong, I'll take it all back to bits. And now, push that out of the way. I'm going to get this, I'm going to cut around this seam and make this a little bit smaller. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to attempt to cut into that all the way around. I might go that way actually. Let's do it! So already this is looking a lot better than it did, although we have got now this sharp edge against the rubber, so we need this to sit off of there, but then bolt to this ring. Right, so what I'm going to do next, I'm going to pack this off with some equal size packers, and then we'll take a depth measurement through these 2 holes that are already in this plate, and we'll find just how long our packers have got to be. So I've got that packed off, and that is far enough off there that the tyre is never going to rub this. And we're going to have a trim round there as well, some of that push-on chrome trim. That'll be glued on there, just so that if ever there is any rubbing, it's not going to cause any damage. However, I doubt there's ever going to be any rubbing because it just won't happen. And I've tried these against the tyres with the weight of the van on as well, and I get the same sort of reading, if you will. So I need to now measure between this hole and that disc that I've put on. So I'm going to use the vernier, and I'm going to use the, you know, like the depth thing on the bottom there, and I'm going to measure down how far. Let's do that. Lock that off. 66mm. 66mm between there and there to get that to sit at that height. So now I think I'm going to mount this in 4 places. I need to put in my 4 places that I'm going to mount these, and I need the holes through. So I need to, first off, I'll mark through these 2 holes, and then I'll drill and mark the others once I've got those set. Okay, so to mark this, what I'm going to do first, I'm going to spray some satin black over it, and then I'll be able to see where I've scratched. Because at the minute, it's just all lovely silver clean metal. I can't see my marks. I know there's that blue stuff, but you know what? I ain't got any of that, but I've got satin black. Right, so I'm pretty confident that's centred. You know, there's some good lines on the tyre that have sort of showed me that that is centred quite well. And now it's just to make these marks. Yeah, we've got 2 nice little crosses there. That is great stuff. so I've cut these 4 bits off and they are all exactly the same length. I'm just going to take the burr off of these just so they're nice and clean when we come to weld them on. And then I'm going to press these nuts into the end using the vise, hopefully. So then, press that nut into the end of there. That's going to hold it nice. I am going to put a little double weld on just in case, but that will give us something to screw into nicely to hold the plate to the wheel off this packer. Do now, I've got those pressed in the end of there, but I'm just gonna, well, they will still fall out, so it just makes like a little box spanner really. What I'm gonna do is just put a double weld on each one of these, but I'm gonna put the bolt in just so that no weld splatter goes into the thread, makes the thread all sort of tight and dirty. So let's get the welder, do some very small welding. Right, and so we've got 2 of those packers on the back of this wheel plate, and they sit down onto there, and if we just bolster this with a couple of bits of this wood we've been using as a packer, that's feeling quite good. And as I look through, they're nice and close to the wheel. I'm pretty happy with how that's coming out. So if I centre this again and then start looking at, I need 2 other holes. Now there's 4 gaps here, so really my other hole would go where that bolt is. So I'm going to go one side of it on this side, I'm just going to go the other side on this side. And what I've done there, I've just measured so that they're the same distance out from the centrepiece as these 2 holes that are already there that I know hit the flange. So that is where I should be drilling my holes. I've got to get this on, get everything in place. So guess what? Mitre bond, might fix. This is mitre bond today. I'm going to put a bit on there and flip it over, get it into position, then spray the stuff on, then I'll unscrew this and then weld those down. And it gets me everything nice and in the right place without too much messing about. Now that is feeling quite good. So I might fix them down. I'm going to leave this for literally like a minute, just to make sure that's gone off as good as it has. This is going to have a very tenuous bond between the 2 bits of metal, and I don't want anything falling over as I undo these. In reality, what's going to happen is as I undo these, all the glue will come off, and when I lift this off, they will all just fall over into a big pile. Is that what you want? Because that's what'll happen. I'm hoping not. So let's take these out and we'll see if we can get this off and then get those welded in exactly the place we want them. Okay then, is it going to work? Again, so they're where they need to be. They're not all sticking dead straight up, but I'm not seeing that as a problem because they line up with those holes and bolt this disc onto that wheel. So what I'm going to do now is weld around these. Now, I probably said this before, but when you weld over the Mitafix, sometimes the Mitafix gives off a gas that will make you cry. Just be careful, well ventilated area, all of that kind of thing. Right, so before putting these in, I've just drilled these holes out a little bit bigger, so we've got a little bit of adjustment there just to have a slide around if it doesn't look quite central, but I'm pretty sure this is going to be really central. Also, putting these bolts in, putting a washer on them, just so that nothing flies off. And when I finally assemble this, of course this has got to come off, you know, be on and off the car a few times before the end of the job. So what I need to do is, you know, leave this so I can get it on and off, but I will be putting Loctite on all of these. Not the stud one, just the one that stops stuff coming undone, just to make sure this never flies off down the road. All of the bolts go in there great and hold that, but I've missed one thing. We've still got this super sharp edge that, even though it's quite a way away from, could catch the tyre wall. So we need to address that now, and I've got just the stuff. Right, because I'm going to put this edging on here, what I've done, I have gone round with the grinder and just took the edge off that, because stainless steel, my God, when you've cut it, it can be super sharp. But cleaned it up, nice and safe now, so I can put the trim on. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to put this like edging stuff that's meant for the edge metal. This is what we're going to use around them cubby holes, the meat wagon. I'm going to fit this all the way around here, and that'll give a nice soft edge, just in case the tyre ever touches it. I don't think it will, but it might. But anyway, let's get this on here and make this a lot less sharp. So we've got that chrome trim all the way around there now, and that's made this a lot nicer, a lot softer, and if it ever does catch, which I don't think it will, I've said many times, it just makes it a hell of a lot safer. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to run around the inside here with some Mitafix just to make sure this doesn't come off. But apparently what this does is when it goes on, there's some like glue inside that the edge goes into, and after a while it does stick to it. But I'm still going to run that glue round because I don't trust no one or nothing. Okay, so there it is, all glued and fitted on. And it even looks pretty good on that side. It sort of gives a nice factory finish to this. Right, so that's it, it's on. This tyre, you know, the wheel I use is just one that's been knocking out. You can see this is super flat. It's flatter than you'd ever drive it. But still here, there's at least 10 mil. And you know, this isn't like, it's not so rigid it's gonna like cut into the tyre, but you would never be driving with your tyre this flat. So it really has worked, you know, that edge is there, it's not going to hurt the tyre, and it looks like we've got slightly bigger wheels on this than we've actually got. And of course, with this huge inset on this, because it sits so low and we get really good steering lock on it, you don't see this gap or anything. It's like you get away with a lot because it's all hidden under the arch. Let's see if we can get full lock. Right, and so we've got full left-hand lock there, and we have got no problem with anything catching. In fact, the only thing that might catch is the tyre, but what I'm going to do is really roll that edge back and before it goes on the road, because it does sometimes catch. But then again, is a really low car with really good steering lock. But let's see if with left hand down it is the same. Right hand down, sorry. And there as well, there's just so much room on it. I think it's just because the wheel sort of comes out like that and then moves, you sort of get away with it. Let's get it back into its straight position and we can just bask in the beauty of a well tucked wheel. This is what it looked like before, just a big old agricultural truck sort of wheel. And now, boom, big shiny wheel. Oh yes. Okay, so that is it for another week. I'll be back next week and we'll be doing some more mad things with cars. In the meantime, don't forget we've got some merch on our Etsy store. And don't forget, do that love art thing. Do the bell for regular updates of new episodes, and there might be a little bonus episode coming up soon. You've got to look out for it. Anyway, that is pretty much it. Do all them things. Leave a comment below. I thank you very much, and good night.